If you're watching this video, good for you. This is the Chapter 3 review for PreAlgebra. Now, in this problem we had to find mean, median, mode, an outlier, and the range. The mean, I added all of these up. I got 362. I divided by the number of values. There are 13 of them. And then I got 27.8. The median is the number right in the middle. In this case there are 13 values, so it will be that middle number, which was 27. The mode is also 27. It's the one that shows up the most, and 27 is the only value that shows up twice. There is no outlier. 10 is not that far from 17, and 47 is not that far from 41. To find the range, I subtracted the lowest number from the highest number. So 47 minus 10, my range is 37. Question 2, to find the outlier, the best thing to do is to put your values in order. You have to do it for the median anyway, so you might as well do it for the outlier. I can tell that 16 is an outlier because it is 10 units away from the next highest one. 41 is not an outlier because it is right next to 40. But 16 is the outlier. It affects the mean by lowering the mean. Number 3, to describe this situation, a mean would be good because there are probably no outliers. But you could have said median also. If you included my age in the 8th grade class, if it said students and the teacher, then you'd want to use median because my age is much higher than most 8th graders. So it would raise the mean. My age would raise the mean. Number 4, know this for tomorrow. Mode describes the favorite class in high school. Use mode because the answers are going to be names, not numbers. You can't find a mean of math, social studies, science, gym, lunch, whatever. You can't, because how can you put them in order? Can you add them all up and divide by 4? Can you put them in order and find the median? No, they're names. This is called nominal. Nominal, when the data are names. Number 5, for any formula, start with the formula they give you, replace the variables with the numbers that you're given, and for this one you can ignore the meters, the m over h. We don't care about that. So we replace d with 243.53. The next part of the formula is equals, so I wrote in an equal sign. I replaced r with the 34.3 that they gave us, and then I'm finding t, the part I don't know. So this is 34.3 times t, which means I have to divide by 34.3 on both sides, and that'll leave me with t equals 7.1. I have another formula, f equals n over divided by 4 plus 37, where n is the number of chirps per minute. I'm given n, 41. So I just have to replace n in the formula. So 41 divided by 4 is about 10, so I add 10 to 37 and my answer would be 47. The reason I knew I could round like that, because I was told in the problem to round to the nearest whole number. Number 7, I've got another formula, the formula for perimeter. P equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. I'm given the width, so I plug it in, and then I just solve for L. I get 17. And these problems, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing decimals. Just remember, do the opposite. Since this is plus 29.5, I subtract 29.5 from both sides. So 29.5 minus 29.5 is 0. That's what I wanted. N equals 7.5. Check your answers. I should plug in 7.5, add 29.5 to it. If I get 37, then I've got the right answer. If I didn't get 37 when I plugged it back in, then I did something wrong and I have to start over. This is P minus 2.2 equals 7.6, so I do the opposite of subtracting. I add 2.2 and I add 2.2. So those cancel. I'm left with P equals 9.8. Number 10. This is plus a negative, which is the same as subtracting. I could just remove that and remove that, and this would be D minus 26.8. So I add 26.8 to both sides, and I'm left with D, since those cancel. I'm left with D equals 40.8. Number 11 looked more complicated than it was. Since this is a negative 99.404, I can add 99.404 to both sides. And this is minus 34.56, so I can add 34.56 to both sides, and I'll be left with B equals 270.901. Number 12 reads negative 1.6 times D equals 3.36. So I have to divide by negative 1.6. I divide by that term on both sides, and I'm left with D equals negative 2.1. 13 reads M divided by negative 2.9. So I multiply negative 2.9 on both sides, and I get left with M, since these cancel. I'm left with M equals negative 11.02. Number 14, I'm given that the sum of these 5 batting averages is 1.754. So if I add them all together, along with this one I don't know, I know that all of them added together equals 1.754, and then I can just solve for x. I can add up all my constants to get 1.428 plus x. Then I can subtract 1.428 from both sides, and I'm left with 0.326, or Bill Miller hit 326. Number 15, I know that this farm produces 38.4 liters of milk per day. I'm being asked to find the number of days, so I called that D, that it will take to produce 730 liters of milk. So the equation I wrote was 38.4 times D. So if it were 1 day, they'd produce 38.4 liters. If it were 2 days, they'd produce 76.8. 38.4 times the number of days equals 730. So I divide both sides by 38.4. Divide that by 38.4. Divide that by 38.4. I'm left with 19 days. Just about 19. It's a decimal, but we can round to 19 days. For batting average, we're doing it again, batting average. I'm given the formula average equals H, the number of hits, divided by N, the number of times at bat. Once I know that, I can plug in what I'm given. He hit 286, his A average. We don't know how many hits, but we do know how many at-bats, and then we can solve and find it is 142 hits. (17) There is no mode, none, because no value shows up any more than once. In number 18, we actually have 2 modes. 72, and 41. Number 19, I think you know how to find mean, median, and mode. So if you didn't get the answers in class, mean is 11.3, the median is 11, and the mode is 10. That's the easy one. It shows up the most. Explain why a teacher might use the median instead of the mean. The idea is an outlier. Let's say everyone on the test gets, let's say 100%, except for one person. He gets a 5%. He really didn't know what he was doing. That 5 is going to pull down the mean a lot. It's going to pull the mean way down. But if someone asked, hey, how'd your students do on the test? You'd say, oh, well, they did pretty well. The median score was 100. So yeah, it's pretty good. But if we include that score, actually, let's say he scored 0, easier math. My mean would be 100 plus 100 plus 100 plus 0 divided by 4. That would be 300 divided by 4, which would give me a 75. But I had 3 kids do really well. But the mean shows a 75, which isn't that good. Doesn't tell you how well the kids actually did. So that outlier of a 0 really pulls down the mean. Lastly, R. I'm given R equals S divided by 10. We know this has to do with rain and snowfall, so we can say, oh yeah, R must be rain and S must be snow. So R equals S divided by 10, and we're given 8 inches of snow in the last snowstorm. R equals 8 divided by 10, so R equals 0.8.